Episode 21, E3 2018.
Welcome to the Visionary Variety Podcast, where we cover all kinds of cool stuff like photo, video, film, books, and technology. So switch on your brain and enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Visionary Variety Podcast, guys. We're honored to have you listening again this week. We've been on a video game kick lately, in case you haven't noticed. Last week we talked about our favorite games of all time and also our childhood and kind of our introduction to gaming and how we got to where we are now. It was really fun, so if you haven't listened to that, definitely check out that episode after this one. This week we're going to be talking about the E3 conference, which is a really big deal. Joining with us today, we've got Angela Brock, the girl who's a figment of her own imagination.
Hey, people.
Also, Nate Gunn, the guy who plans on living forever. So far, so good.
Hey, what's up?
And myself, Daniel Grove, the guy who's never, ever been wrong, except for that one time. All right, Nate, why don't you tell us a little bit about E3 and what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, so E3 is the largest gaming expo we have, and E3 stands for Electronic Entertainment Expo. It's held in Los Angeles. Now, for those that didn't have the chance to drive all over or fly all the way to LA, a lot of us were fortunate to watch the live stream. So basically, they launch all the new trailers and games and what's coming up and what to expect. So yeah, it was definitely a treat.
Since there were so many games being covered throughout all of E3, we won't be able to go through every single game announced in the conferences, unfortunately. We're just going to be talking about the games that most appeal to us. And we're going to be sorting them through all the different publishers' conferences just to keep things nice and organized. So we're going to start off here with EA's conference. And I have no clue why they decided to start off the entire E3 conference with EA, given their bad reputation in recent years.
Oh.
But it is what it is. And they open up their show with Battlefield 5.
Well, that's not bad. That's a good
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I wish they showed more gameplay, because they mainly just focus on cutscenes and showing stuff like, hey, you can destroy the environments in this game.
Yeah.
Snow will fall off roofs, all realistically.
It was a big teaser because I was thinking E3 was going to be the one that, yes, we're never going to see more about Battlefield 5, and yet it's no more than what we've already been seeing, maybe a little bit more detailed of.
Plus snowfall.
Pretty much. And I was like, wow, like that was, what a way to, intro in a game. That was really cool.
You can use that. You can use that strategically. Shoot a roof, the snow falls on your assailant, and you just go and attack them. You could win the war.
It'd be so cool if people could get buried in the snow, but I highly doubt that'll be a thing.
That'd be awesome.
They pointed out that one of the big things they pointed out, right at the get-go, was, for those that try to hide from those big tanks, because in previous games you could hide in buildings with, from tanks, but they were just pointing out that the tanks are going to ruin the building and snow falls. I'm like, what is happening? It's like,
can you make a snowman and put an explosive inside it?
Yeah, I was like, what are we talking about?
Remote.
That'd be amazing. I'd play that game if that was the case. Right, and then soon after the Battlefield 5 trailer, they did some sort of announcement for a game called Jedi: The Fallen Order. And I swear that was the most awkward and cringe moment of all of E3.
Awful.
Where the hostess went and sat down in the audience next to the founder of Respawn Entertainment, who's the developer that's working on Jedi: The Fallen Order. And they had no footage whatsoever to show, no trailer. They were just like, hey, we're making this game, and you can have a lightsaber. And
pretty much the shot is they're sitting in the crowd, super close up in the face, and it's just really cringy, way too close. And you think, when you hear the word Jedi, you think of Star Wars. It's like, yes, they're not going to give us too much. But the way they presented it was like, oh man, we're going to be able to see a little bit of footage. And he's like, oh, we have no footage. Our conference isn't until 2019. I'm like, then why are we talking to you?
I know.
And he tried to be all like amping it up and Vegas, we've been working on the name with Lucasfilms.
Yeah.
And it's this. I'm like, okay, that wasn't exciting.
Yeah. And the moment that kills me, he mentions like in the beginning of the interview, that the game's supposed to take place in between episodes 3 and 4.
Yes.
So then later on in the interview, the hostess goes, "Oh, so sounds like it's going to be a pretty good time." And he's like, "Oh, no, it's a dark time."
And I was like,
she's like,
my
so it's going to be all
goodness.
dark and serious.
I'm just sitting there thinking,
wow.
I'm like, is Lucasfilms just sitting there kicking themselves in Disney? They're like, why is he talking?
Why?
It's like you gave the guy you gave the microphone to the wrong guy.
Yes, that's what I feel like too. I don't think he's going to get any more spots anymore.
Probably not. That was his one and done, and he has to really help himself on getting a
it's
better
like, I don't know if I
presence.
can blame him for it, because just like the whole entire thing was awkward. I don't know if it was like just decided that they were going to do this on the spot or what, but
The cringiest moment for me for that little video clip is when he's like, "So Jedi the Fallen Order, that probably means you're gonna play as a Jedi, huh?" And he's like shaking his eyebrows. I'm like, dude,
yeah,
like, no freaking duh.
yeah. So all that was
It was bad.
yeah, all that was special.
No, it doesn't say anything against the game. I'm anticipating an awesome game.
Oh, I hope so.
Fallen
Right.
Order,
Heck
that's
yeah.
some like corrupt Sith or some corrupt Jedis. That's a cool
Did
idea.
they ever
We haven't
say what
explored much, so-
platforms? All platforms or no?
No.
They didn't really
Ah,
say. I'm assuming
They-
PS4 and Xbox One, but yeah, let's talk about more Star Wars. They announced
Yay.
more Battlefront 2 DLC.
Yeah.
They announced Clone Wars stuff, so you can get General Grievous, Obi-Wan, Anakin,
Yes.
and Count Dooku.
So excited.
So there's that for those who play that game. I don't, but
Yeah, so Battlefront 2 has the actual story, and now there's more story with the DLC, but these things are canon, I'm
I
assuming.
hope so.
You can actually, I watched a good bit of it. You can look up on YouTube like all the combined cutscenes,
Yeah.
which basically tells like a miniature movie, and they're pretty decent. They're fun to watch.
Yeah.
So the next 2 games that they showed off were actually a couple of indie games, and for me, those were the most interesting things that they showed at their conference.
Yeah.
So they showed a game called Unravel 2, and there was a game that came out, what was it, a couple of years ago called Unravel, where you play as a little yarn character named Yarny, and you can solve puzzles and do platforming.
Yarny.
Yeah. You're made of
Oh, it's so
yarn, and you
funny.
can use your yarn off your body to help solve puzzles and do things like that.
yeah.
So
So
it's super
cute.
cute, and they're coming out with a sequel, and you can play co-op. So I'm
Yarny.
excited for that. I would like to play that someday. And they even announced that that game was like released that same day, like at the end of their little
Yeah.
showing. So
That's really cool.
they pulled a Beyonce, guys.
That's fun.
And then the next game is the game that kind of most appealed to me. It's a game called Sea of Solitude. And it's one of those games that has like the kind of game that I said in the previous like podcast episode, the games that I like, where it's like very story based and has a cool art style. They described the plot of the game that revolves around the idea that when human beings get too lonely, they turn into monsters.
Whoa.
And that the main character, Kay, experiences such strong loneliness that her inner worthlessness, hopelessness, and anger manifest into a physical form and turn her into a monster.
Wow.
So you
Ain't
must
gonna
learn.
happen.
Yeah, I know, right? It happens to me more
You need
times than
some
I can count.
friends.
Yeah. So the whole point of the game is you must learn how to turn her back into a human
Wow.
and stuff. So it's like a
Just needs a hug.
yeah.
Problem solved.
I don't know, that kind of stuff, it kind of appeals to me. I like when they explore
good.
deeper things like that in games. And it looks like it's a 3D, maybe puzzle platformer game. So that's right
wow.
up my alley. I'm looking forward to it. It's supposed to come out in early
Interesting.
2019. So
Hopefully
Gonna keep
early
my eye-
means like
eye on that.
January.
See,
Yeah.
I Sea of Solitude. I thought this was like a sequel to the Superman, and he's going to be like go like a seafaring pirate, instead of the Fortress of Solitude. But I
oh,
know,
well,
No.
sorry to
not-
disappoint you there.
not a Superman game. Or it's not a pirate Superman. Darn,
That's funny.
I'm waiting for that.
That'd be so funny. Oh man.
Captain Clark.
Oh my gosh.
That's pretty catchy. I'm gonna make
Great.
that. Make it so.
That's awesome. And since it's EA, of course, they had to show off their sports games like FIFA
Yeah.
19 and Madden 19 and NBA Live 19. And then the next game they showed was Command and Conquer Rivals. And some people were getting really excited about this because apparently a Command and Conquer game hasn't been out since like 2012. But then they destroyed everyone's hope by revealing that it's a mobile game, and it doesn't even look like a very good mobile game at that. And then they did this boring live presentation where they had 2 people out on the stage sitting down with their phones and doing like a versus
It
match.
was awful.
And then they try to get the camera in like over the shoulder and show what the mobile screen is
No.
showing, and it just did not work out very well.
It was very boring. And then I don't know, whenever they do these kind of skits like this, like the interaction between if they're online or they're live on stage, it's like, are you ready? I'm ready. Let's go. And I'm like, who
Yeah.
talks like that? You're not Power
But
Rangers.
they didn't even have that. It was just like the host is trying to like commentate, and I think maybe they were talking with the developer at the same time. I can't quite remember. So like the players weren't even saying a whole lot that I can recall, but it was just it was very boring.
I feel like in general, a lot of the banter and dialogue is just really forced and unnatural feeling.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's because these are kind of generally more geeky and, like entertainment-minded people, and they're not so much like public speakers. I don't know.
And
I just feel like a lot of it was just like, ugh.
That, and they also have to play it safe when they do that sort of thing, because we all know that if you play online, everyone is probably like cursing each other out and like having like talking dirty and everything, smack talk. They can't do any smack talk whatsoever. They're just like, oh no, you're stuck. Here, I'll help you. And I'm like, that's not what happens at all.
I know.
We'll talk about that a little bit more later on when we actually get to talk about the Division 2, because they did that in their segment. Anyways, and then EA closed out their conference by doing a little thing for Anthem. When I say little, it wasn't really little. They did a whole 20-minute segment talking about Anthem, and literally over half of it was just talking about it. They had three of the development team, three people of the development team up on stage talking with the hostess, and they're just doing like a basic interview sort of thing without showing much extra gameplay footage in the background. Even it was just so boring. And when they finally did show gameplay, I mean, some of it looked cool. They didn't really show anything too like much newer than what they showed last year at E3. They kind of showed that there's like a class system in the game, apparently, like the different power armor suits that you can wear. They're called javelins, and you can have like different classes. Like there's a ranger class, Colossus, interceptor, and storm. So it kind of reminds me of like the tank and the mage, and like maybe the speed.
Different classes, different strengths and weaknesses.
It's
so
crazy.
That's kind of cool, but
it's crazy is like we saw, was it last year they released the Anthem first trailer, like the sneak peek, right?
I think so. I don't remember anything before that.
Everybody's kind of been anticipating a new trailer or more about it, and so we've gotten a little bit. So when E3 happened, everybody was like, Anthem, we're real excited because, for those that love Halo, it's a lot like that in some ways, but it's more of a team base. But this year, they didn't really show any additional, but maybe a little bit. But they really, really like brought forward to everybody, like, it's a team-based game. It's a team-building game. And I was like, yeah, we know that. Like, you told us that last year. And so...
Yeah, I was watching one of the trailers, and there's like a narrating, I feel like it's an AI. It's a voice that's kind of showing you, oh, this is that. Go over here and do this. It's like a Jarvis, basically. And it was just so like lackluster and just like weak. I just was not impressed by this voice actor or the way he was like acting. It was pretty lame. But I've seen other footage of actual gameplay, and it looks really amazing.
Yeah, that's what
it looks
I'm saying.
Cool.
It's like there's some really big space opera stuff going on with like ancient alien races and stuff they left there that's like dangerous but like powerful, and then there's like some sub race called like a Scar, and it looks really. I want to play it.
That's
really
what I'm saying.
I'm not like a fan of the aesthetic that they're doing, like as you're shooting like enemies and stuff, the numbers pop up to show up how much damage you're doing, and sometimes when a lot of people are shooting, it can cover up like half the thing you're shooting at.
I've seen complaints about that too.
Yeah, that's my biggest complaint with it so far.
I just want to see their health bar. I don't care about how much I've damaged.
That's true. Health bar also.
Some of the big chunky health bar.
When are they going to die?
Yeah.
So it's a really good game. I was really excited, but this E3 really didn't. My excitement's still where it was when they announced it last year. There was no like, it was more like, okay, yeah, thanks for telling us stuff we already know. Appreciate it.
Right.
And then what Daniel just pointed out about the whole cheesy Jarvis, it was not that good.
Anyway, the game's supposed to be released in February 22nd, 2019. So it's not going to make another E3 appearance unless they delay the game or something. So going to have to keep our eye on how well that does, I suppose. All right, and after the worst conference, the next day they went on to, I think, what was the best conference of the whole show, Microsoft's.
Thank God.
Surprisingly, I wasn't expecting it to be that good. Their conference, they nailed it. They were like just showing game. None of the boring stuff. And
they were on their game, one might say.
They kept the energy up.
I was surprised because they just were like, here's our segment of talking, and here's our game, and here's our little segment of talking. Game, and I was like, thank you. Like, you're just showing us what E3 should be like about. Right. It was the gaming convention, and we're not a lot of the journalists, because you got to remember, E3 is for all the journalists sitting in there taking notes and all that fun stuff. But for like a viewer that sits at home and live streams, I get that we have to share what the journalists are going through. But a lot of us are like, just get to the point already, or show the game up front, then talk.
Yeah. Yeah, and they definitely did that here. So they opened up their conference by showing a teaser for Halo Infinite. And that's basically all it was, just a teaser. They didn't show any gameplay or anything. So who knows what that's going to be like. And then then the next thing they showed is a game I'm kind of interested in. They showed a game called Ori and the Will of the Wisps. And it's a sequel to a game that came out a couple of years ago called Ori and the Blind Forest. It's something I have not played yet, but I just recently bought it. And it's one of those
Cool.
like Metroidvania kind of games where you're basically running around and platforming and trying to find different,
Is it a side scroller?
like 2.5D or something, where it's like on this like the side view, but it's 3D models
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And that game looks gorgeous,
Interesting.
so I'm very looking forward
Yeah.
to play that.
When's the release date? I forgot. I'm drawing a blank.
They said sometime in 2019 for that one. They didn't specify when exactly.
Yeah, I felt bad because I was watching it and I messaged Angela and I was like, so does the character look a lot like Stitch to you, or is it just me?
A little bit, but he's got like a tail and he's white. He's completely different. Okay.
He's not blue.
Anyways.
But he has a blue glow.
Yeah. And then the next game that they showed kind of looks interesting to me, although it's not typically the kind of game I play. It's called Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. And it
That
looks
looks intense.
Yeah, it's like you play as a shinobi in the late 1500s, and he has a prosthetic bone-looking arm,
Yeah.
which allows him like to equip various tools
Mhm.
to it. So like a grappling hook.
It's a cool like gateway to wild fantasy stuff.
Yeah.
Like his arm. It's like the key to all
Yeah.
kinds of cool stuff.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what happened to him exactly. I don't know. Like, of course, he got his arm hacked off, and somebody like replaced it with that prosthetic. But
Yeah.
I think something else happened to where he has the ability to die and potentially revive on the spot, because they show that in their gameplay trailer.
Yeah.
So
I'm thinking he like did something. He like saved a god or saved a demon, and like the demon like pays him back with giving these special abilities, but maybe has an agenda.
yeah, given that it's Japanese based, all kinds of crazy stuff
The
could be
Japanese
They know their
Assassin's
fantasy.
Creed.
involved. Yeah, they do.
They've been making fantasy stories for like thousands of years.
Yeah.
So.
And then it's developed by the same people who made Dark Souls from software. So, and then they showed a trailer for Crackdown 3, which has been in development hell since like 2016. So people didn't think this game was going to
Man.
get released anytime soon. And I don't know anything about the Crackdown games, but this trailer, it got me hyped for it because Terry Crews was in it, like
He's just
screaming at
yelling
the
at you
player.
the whole time.
And he's like in the game, it looks like too. And I don't know, he's just like getting super pumped up and blowing stuff up and driving a car up the side of the building. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what this is, but I'm kind of intrigued.
He's just yelling the whole time. He's like, "Are you ready?" And he's just going like the whole time. He's just yelling through the whole trailer.
Mm-hmm. It was great. Next up, they
Awesome.
showed a kind of a definitive edition for Nier Automata for the Xbox One. It never got released for that system, so they're coming out with an edition called Become as Gods Edition, and it includes the main game and the DLC.
Yeah.
Well, there's that.
Yeah, that game is really cool. That's a great sci-fi story of like AI and artificial life, and there's some romance and stuff in there too, and like a bunch of lies and cover-ups. I've actually photographed at least one the cosplayers for this game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
As I dug into it and kind of did my homework and learned about the visuals and the story behind it, it seems really intriguing.
Yeah.
So very cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's already been on PC and PS4, but now they're bringing it to the Xbox. And like Angela said, you can play the previous DLC.
Mhm.
So
They got a good deal there.
plus the new stuff. Yeah.
I think going down further the list, they showed stuff for Forza Horizon 4. Now, I've never played any of those games, but they make kind of a big deal out of this when they showed a lot of gameplay stuff for it. They were really stressing that now you can race with other players on the server. Like, everybody can be driving around on the same world and can talk to each other and
Cool.
do missions and,
And you
stuff,
can
I guess.
drive in different seasons.
Yeah, they really
Absolutely.
push that too. Like, guys, look, there's ice on this water now when it's winter. I guess you can drive a
But-
hoverboat or cars and stuff. And
But does the snow fall off roofs of the
I
building?
know, that's the
tanks
real
at the
question
wall.
here. I won't be impressed unless I see realistic snow falling off roof
Oh.
mechanics.
That is all I care about. I need falling snow. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. And then I don't know why they bothered to show this at the conference, but they did. They did a thing for PUBG, because of course they have to, because it's super popular now. They were like, hey,
Yeah, that's
now you
why.
can play new maps and modes on the Xbox One. And I'm like, okay, I don't get the importance of showing that since it's already on PC.
Isn't it free on PC?
No, I don't believe so.
Oh, it's
Fortnite's the
not.
one that's free.
But that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, yeah. Fortnite and PUBG have just been like taking the market by storm. It's like they're so popular. I hear like young kids talking about it. I
Yeah.
hear adults talking about it.
Yeah.
And it's an open. It's like a simple concept, but it's so open. That's what makes it fun.
Yeah. So
It's not too nailed down to a story or anything.
and so many people were joking this year about how many games we're going to announce they're going to have a battle royale mode in their games just because of the success of
Hmm.
PUBG and
Yeah.
Fortnite. And actually Battlefield 5 is having a battle royale mode. So
I mean,
Yeah.
back in my day, like when I used to do a lot of gaming, a lot of those games that had a story also had a versus mode, like Star Fox.
yeah, yeah.
It was a story, but a lot of people didn't talk about the fact that there was like a versus mode where you could just fight each other in your spaceships, and it was super fun.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, hey, they're coming back to this battle royale concept,
Yeah.
which was always awesome.
Yeah.
We mentioned how PUBG was so popular, and get this, in January of this year, they had a 1.5 million players.
Oh
Huh.
my gosh.
Yeah, it's
Such a
going down, but I
travesty.
mean that's a lot of players.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got the money they need, so they're good.
Yeah, they're good
It'd be
now.
cool if they made different versions, like a sci-fi version or a steampunk version. I don't know, it'd
Yeah.
be fun.
Yeah, that's for other developers to make now, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, they're gonna rip it off and be like, "Oh, steampunk battle royale,
Yeah.
it's original." Nope.
Right. And next up, they show Tom Clancy's The Division 2. Now, Nate, you played the first one, right?
Yeah, it's really hard because it's like a rebuilding. Like basically, it's rebuilding. It's like survival, team building, and so on. So it gets kind of hard because it's not only with the team building and surviving. You also have like a force that's trying to take over the city and push against. You know, they're trying to take over, and you're trying to push. Back, and so it actually gets pretty hard. And I think there are some parts that kind of get interesting. But I never like as the time went on, it was some of the updates and DLCs. I was like, man, this is hard. Like I thought I was a
Yeah.
good game. I'm not. I never call myself a good gamer, but I was like, I tap out. I can't do this. This is like it was getting hard.
Yeah, and from what I understand, like when they showed the Division 2 gameplay, a lot of people are saying that it doesn't really look much different than the first one.
No,
so
not at
there's
all.
that.
Which is good though. I mean, I
Uh,
watched some gameplay and it is beautiful. At least one level there on was like this crashed down huge Air Force One plane, and gosh, it was just really really nice looking.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they added
The-
enough stuff to make it different, but who knows? But
Yeah.
at their presentation, they did the stupid thing that we were talking about earlier, where they had
Oh
a bunch
no.
of players act like they were playing the game and doing their stupid little team speak stuff to each other, and this went on for like maybe 10 minutes or so.
But they weren't playing?
I don't think
I
they
don't
were
understand.
because they do that a lot where they have players on stage acting like they're playing the game, but they're really just like faking it to pre-recorded
Is it?
footage to make sure everything goes the way that it's supposed to.
Oh my gosh, that's so
I'm
awful.
pretty sure that it was, yeah, pre-recorded stuff. So it's just painful. I
funny.
mean, they used to do this a lot, I think, in previous E3s, and that's the only time where they did it during this whole entire conference where they did the stupid TeamSpeak stuff. So I'm thankful for that, but it was still painful to watch this time. So, and after that, they showed a trailer for a new skateboarding game, and people were starting to get hyped up because they thought it was a sequel to the skate games, like Skate 4. I guess people have been looking forward to this for a while and hoping it would come, but no, it's a brand new IP called Session. So there's
And
that.
pardon my ignorance, but I didn't even know skate games were still being made. Like that was a
Yeah.
big deal in PS1, PS2 days.
Yeah, I
They're
used to
still doing
play
them.
the heck out of Tony Hawk,
Yes, so much fun.
but I didn't play any skate games. I've known they existed, but I didn't know how good they were. Apparently, they're good. They're just different. Then after that, they showed kind of a pretty big reveal for some gamers out there. They showed a new trailer for Devil May Cry 5. And actually, I don't think they had announced like any news of this beforehand, so it was like a total surprise for people. And that's like a game series that is really loved by a lot of gamers. I've never played the games, but they look interesting to me. It's like one of those, not action adventure. It's one of those kind of like hack and slash, shoot 'em up kind of games that's has
Yeah.
like crazy over the top action where you're like beating up demons and you're like flipping them up through the air and like slashing them and like shooting them a ton with guns
good
that have
times.
like endless bullets and stuff. You don't
no
have to reload.
physics, no bullet. Yeah.
Then after that, they show Cuphead DLC coming out, and there's a lot of people that love
What is
Cuphead.
that?
Cuphead is you don't know anything about Cuphead?
I know nothing.
Oh
It
man,
sounds so
it's so,
stupid.
but it looks cool. It's a game that's totally made with hand drawn animation. Like they drew
Huh.
all the frames for these characters in the game,
Wow.
and it's based off the old 1930s style of cartoons. So it's got a
Okay.
unique little aesthetic to it, and it's a super hard game that's like basically boss rushes for the most part, and you will die a lot, but people love
I was
it.
gonna say The subtitle is the delicious last course, and I was thinking to myself, please tell me this is not a cooking game.
No.
Cool. Well, hand drawn. That sounds unique.
Yeah, and they have like a new character you can play as, like a lady called Miss Chalice, and I'm like, oh, that's cute. Okay, so there's that for all the Cuphead fans. And after that, they showed a game that looks absolutely adorable to me, and I want to play so bad, called Tunic.
It does look cute.
It looks like Fox Legend of Zelda kind of game. It's like
it's totally a rip-off of Zelda.
Yeah, I know. I don't care though. It looks adorable, and the art style is great. And I will play as a little chibi Fox Link. I don't care.
Yeah, it's got the isometric kind of cartoon CGI, and it looks like a really fun world to play in. And I signed up for the notifications because right now it's only out for iPhone, and they don't have an Android version yet. So I'm hoping that there will be come out for that. It won't be super expensive.
Right, exactly.
I want to play.
I know, me too. Tunic. And after that, they showed Anime Smash Brothers, also known as Jump Force.
Yeah.
That game looks kind of cool in a way. I mean, it's not like Smash Brothers where you can have like, it doesn't seem like you can have like maybe 4 players duking it out against each other, just like 1 versus 1. Yeah. But they showed off that you can play as characters from Dragon Ball Z and Naruto and One Piece so far. They showed Goku, Frieza, Naruto.
Like 4 people, 4 or 5.
Yeah, Luffy. And then at the very end, they tease that you can play as, I guess, Ryuk from Death Note. Or something.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's kind of cool.
Big surprise at the end. That looks awesome. The visuals are great. It's a fun idea, fighting anime characters that are, as we all know, way overpowered.
Right, exactly.
Immeasurably superpowered people. And so that's a great concept. It looks fun.
Yeah, what I actually didn't know is that this is a series that's been going on in Japan a little bit. Like, they have a couple of DS games.
Huh.
So this is the first time Anime Smash Brothers is coming to the US, so that's cool. But I'm interested to see what other kind of characters they add to it, because Shonen Jump is the name of the magazine that Jump Force, is pulling its characters from. So it's a magazine over in Japan where they release like different manga chapters like every week. So different authors kind of release their new stuff in that
anthology
all the time. Yeah. So they could have like Yu Yu Hakusho characters in it, My Hero Academia, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure people in it. So that would be super cool. I'm looking forward to hear what other characters are announced for it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Next up, they kind of showed something different, unique, and people weren't expecting. Battletoads is coming back again, apparently. It was an old arcade game that apparently people have a long-lasting love for even nowadays. There's some people who are really into those games, even though they're like super hard. It's one of those games that you will die over and over again on like the 3rd stage and stuff. But it's coming back next year, and I don't know if it's like a remake of the old game or if it's something completely new, but there's that for those arcade lovers.
For those old people out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Older than me.
And then next up, they showed something completely weird, like the weirdest announcement I've seen yet, I think, is Gears of War Pop, and I don't know why this exists.
Yeah.
If anybody knows the Gears of War series, I don't play it, but it's like, this really bloody third-person shooter fight against aliens sort of thing. So very mature game. But why would they cross over with something this, kiddie as the Pop figures is beyond me. I don't know if they're trying to do like a Lego thing or what, cash in on that, but I feel like that's not the greatest crossover you could have picked.
No.
And it's a mobile game. So.
Yeah. They've been busy. They've got three things that were announced.
It was basically Gears of War avalanche of stuff at this point.
Yeah. Like after that was the Tactics, which is kind of like they said it's a different take on an RTS strategy genre. So it's kind of like the camera will stay in one place and you do something and you probably move on to the next spot. I don't really know.
It's like a turn-based strategy game.
Yeah, they said turn-based, so they didn't show a whole lot of gameplay, so it's not very clear.
Yeah, it's really weird. And apparently, it's like a prequel game, like it takes place 12 years before the first one. So there's that. And then they showed stuff for Gears of War 5, which I know is a big deal, but I don't care about it. And so
their suits are amazingly designed, but what is up with those circles on their chest? I just can't stop staring.
I don't
know.
It's
a little odd. I
mean, got me there.
Really? I don't know. Moving on.
Yeah, moving on. This is basically wrapping up the conference. They teased that they were working on the next Xbox system, but that was about it. So I know it's a few years away.
Oh, don't tease us like that, because then everybody gets excited and they're like, 2019? No, 2020? No, and then it's going to be like the talk for the next.
Probably 21 is when, like, the soonest I could ever see a new generation of consoles being released. So after that, they were acting like they were gonna close out the show, but then no, like the whole conference area goes dark. And then like a little hacking thing shows up on
hacky hack.
yeah, a little hacking thing shows up on the screens, like someone's breaking into their systems. Yeah. And I'm like, what is this? Is this a new Watch Dogs game? Because that seems kind of weird. And then no, it's like a new game called Cyberpunk 2077. And
that actually looked good.
It looks interesting. Cool. They didn't show any gameplay, so I have no clue what to think about it yet. Yeah. They just show, futuristic city and hacking stuff.
What threw me off was the weather. It just seemed way too sunny and happy and beautiful.
Hey, I will take that because I'm tired of everything trying to look gritty sometimes.
Yes. Everything is a forecast of Gotham.
Yeah.
Gotham forecast.
When I found out this game is actually based on like a tabletop game called Cyberpunk 2020. So I had no clue about any of that. It's going to be like an RPG sort of thing. It's developed by the same people who made the Witcher games. So I'm like, oh, well, that means it has a good chance of being really good then. After Microsoft conference, Bethesda held theirs. And they had an interesting opening for it. Opened up with an Andrew WK concert, kind of. And apparently
that was interesting.
Yeah, apparently he performs a song for like promotional material for game called Rage 2, which Bethesda makes. I don't know anything about the Rage series. So
well, apparently they want you to be ready to die and ready to kill.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not a very big fan of that song, but I have to give Andrew WK credit for rocking it out. Like, he gave one heck of a performance and rocked out like hard on the keyboard. So I appreciated that, but man, the audience, I could tell, did not know what to think. They panned over to the audience several times during the show, and their faces were just like, huh? And like,
it looked like a rocker. Like, it looked like a guy that got the wrong memo and got the wrong bin at like a ball, and everybody was there rocking out, and everybody's just like, what's happening?
I almost feel like the confusion was due to the mixing of musical genres. It looks like the piano part was like from a Happy Kid song.
I'm not gonna lie, Disney. I kind of like the music style because it's different and goofy.
It's a cool blend. I've never heard of piano rock metal like that. And then there's a screamo voice part, and then there's back to singing.
It was very upbeat, but very grungy or whatever at the same time. And
that's the happiest metal I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I like the shot of the guy they showed in the audience that was sitting there with sunglasses on, headphones, and a completely perfect poker face. Like,
the orange shades guy. They need to make a meme out of him.
I'm pretty sure he already is. I would be surprised if he's not.
Into something. If you're not into something or not interested in something, you just do that meme and boom.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But what gets me is they didn't even show like gameplay footage behind, the concert or anything. So that was just like a straight up concert, and it was kind of weird. But there's that, and then they showed Rage 2 stuff, which I'm just like, okay, that looks like something I won't play. All right.
Basically.
After that, they went on to release some news for their new Doom game called Doom Eternal.
Yeah. Looks so dark and hellish.
Yeah,
I mean, they just did a trailer, right? There's no gameplay yet.
I haven't seen any.
I don't believe so. I don't recall. I didn't take notes on that.
I learned some interesting stuff I didn't know, and maybe you guys don't know this either, but there is a thing called the id or ID universe, multiverse. Mm-hmm. The id multiverse basically includes Doom, but it also includes Wolfenstein and Commander Keen. And Quake, and they're all generally held by some fans to be in the same universe. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
That's interesting. It sounds like they're building a lot of undercurrent, and they're going to go, ta-da!
Yeah, big reveal. My wife, for some reason, is watching ER. and on ER, there's a scene where they're playing Doom on one of the old 98 Windows computers.
Oh, really?
It's like, oh, cute. Actually, it's probably, I think it's 95, actually. I don't know.
That's funny. Speaking of Wolfenstein, new Wolfenstein game is supposed to be coming out. It's called Wolfenstein Young Blood. It's coming out next year. I think in this game, you're playing as like two sisters, and you can play co-op, and that's about all I know about it. I don't really know much about Wolfenstein, except it's like a game where you shoot Nazis or something. Yeah. You guys know more about that?
Not much more than what you just said, just that I think it's the second one they've made. Or more, not even the second one.
Oh, no, there is a lot more.
Never mind, don't listen to what I'm saying. But yeah, this one looked interesting compared to the last one. I remember I honestly saw some of the trailer and I was like, what is this? And then at the end, it's like Wolfenstein. I was like, wait, what?
And then after that, they showed some little, what appears to be like a comedy skit at first for Skyrim. They were joking about how Skyrim's basically like on every system whatever now. Then they tease that they have a Skyrim very special edition for the Alexa. And they show what is it, Key from Key and Peele, that comedy duo? I don't know.
Yeah.
Key and Peele, I forget.
Yeah.
And he was playing with the Alexa. And Alexa was saying, like, you're level 57. You see a tall mountain. He's like, climb it and stuff. It was like acting like one of those text-based adventure games.
A tortoise approaches.
Yeah.
Who's her dog? So funny.
But what gets me is that it's an actual thing you can play on your Alexa. I had no clue because they didn't say, as far as I'm aware, in the skit that it was real. So I had like one of my gamer friends on Facebook say, "Hey guys, this thing is real. I'm playing it on the Alexa now. It's actually kind of fun." I'm like, "What?" And after that, they went on to their really big announcement, Fallout 76.
That's huge.
And that confused me because I'm like, didn't Fallout 4 come out? Why is it Fallout 76? Because I don't play those games. But it's like
a lot of games we just missed.
I know.
We missed 72 versions.
Right? But no, it's like a prequel game. It references the very first vault that opened up after like the nuclear fallout hit everyone after the apocalypse. So they reveal that it's going to be a big multiplayer game. It's very different from previous games because it's apparently very multiplayer based. Like they very much push that. And then they say that you can end up like nuking other people if you get launch codes to nuclear sites. So I'm like, that's going to pretty much devastate the entire map, I think, because I'm sure players are just going to nuke each other constantly and nothing will get done because it does pretty much destroy the land in an area you nuke. So I don't know how that will work.
Well, got to go back into the vault for another 100 years.
Right. And after that, they teased a couple new things they're working on. First, they teased a game called Starfield. They didn't really show anything, but it's just that it's like a very space-centric game. And that interests me kind of because with Skyrim and Fallout being as like big open world stuff as it is, I'm very curious to see how they do, open world, like open space exploration, essentially.
Well, with the failure of No Man's Sky, I feel like a lot of people are stepping up to try to fill in that gap, and hopefully this is a good one that does not fail like No Man's Sky did.
That would be nice. And after that, they teased that they're making Elder Scrolls 6, which people have been desperately wanting to hear news about for a long time.
How long?
Even though they didn't show anything but a title, that was it. I don't think that game's gonna get released at least for another 3 years. Because they got the Elder Scrolls Online doing super well, so they have no reason to put out another game so soon. But there's that. Nerds still got up and gave it a standing ovation for some reason, even though it showed nothing.
Fans.
I know, right? How dare they be so enthusiastic over nothing? I would do that to some franchises, so I'm one to talk.
Yeah, true.
Anyways, after that conference... Oh man, I don't even know how to describe this conference that came afterwards, and I'm going to blow your all's minds over this probably. Okay, Devolver Digital is a publisher that held a little 20-minute conference. Aww. And it was more like a comedy skit than anything. It was pre-recorded, and the whole thing basically was a bunch of jokes on E3 and stuff like that. Like the show started out with a guy who walked out and was like given the spiel that every major publisher head does, like, we're here for the gamers, we're here to make games for you, we've been listening to all your feedback and da-da-da. He was like giving all that, and then this lady comes out and he comes up and snaps the guy's neck and he falls over dead, and she's like, shut up with all that garbage and all that.
That's awesome.
We're here to sell you guys like the hot filth that you crave and stuff like that, and everyone's like getting up and cheering.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was something special. Also, like all the audience reaction shots, they're like stock footage, so it's all like stupid fake and everything. Oh man. And they had like several skits like poking fun at cryptocurrency and loot boxes. Like they said that they're offering a new item called loot box coin on their website.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But what's really funny about it is they explicitly say in the presentation that this thing probably has no real value and the price of it will fluctuate constantly and you can't actually buy anything with it. But it was actually available for purchase online, and people were actually buying it. This plastic huge coin. So that's something.
Put it on your wall.
Yeah. So they did a bunch of different skits like that, and they only showed like 3 games during their whole conference. Let's see. One of them was called Scum, and was some weird online multiplayer open world prison riot survival game. I don't know. It looked weird. And after that, they showed a game called My Friend Pedro. And I had to look up online exactly what the plot of this game is, and it said that it's about a man who has a friend named Pedro who is a banana, and the banana encouraged the man to kill anyone in his sight. And the gameplay is so ridiculous because it's like the 2D view kind of thing, like off to the side with 3D graphics, and it looks like it's like a little gun ballet game. Like the guy's doing like pirouettes and flips in the air and like shooting people, and it's just like overly ridiculous stuff. And I'm like, what?
Gun fu.
I've never seen anything like a gun ballet thing in a game before, and it made me almost want to play it, even though I never will, because I don't go.
They're drawing you in.
Yeah, I don't go for.
Sounds like these guys are doing just different. They're outside the box.
They're very different. Yeah.
I like them. I like them already.
I know. They definitely made the whole E3 thing like very entertaining. And then the last thing they announced was Metal Wolf Chaos XD, which, I don't know what this is. Apparently, a game called Metal Wolf Chaos came out back in 2004 and was released only in Japan. And the whole plot of this game sounds amazing. The player plays the role of the President of the United States, and he pilots a mech to battle the rebelling military led by the Vice President. Damn. That sounds amazing to me. It sounds ridiculous. And apparently they're
so Japanese.
I know. Apparently they're remastering the game, and it'll be released out in the United States officially for the first time. It'll be out on like the PS4 and the Xbox One later this year. So that's a thing.
I feel like the Japanese and their love for mechs and their interest in the West just combines in that they make presidents pilot mechs. Like, did you see that weird video that came out like a year ago with Donald Trump battling Hillary Clinton in mechs?
I don't think I did.
It's really wacky. It's so Japanese. It's like this chick, she's like daydreaming, and she looks at this picture of Donald Trump. She's like in love with him. And like her daydream could be like, whatever materializes, and it's the Donald Trump mech and Hillary mech like battling, and it's just ridiculous. It's so funny.
Yeah, that sounds.
This is not the first time we've seen an American president pilot a mech.
That's interesting. I wasn't aware of this. Anyway, that was the end of their little conference. Then the next day, Square Enix kicked off theirs, and
Love them.
Yeah, I know. I really like the games that they make because, of course, they're Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts. So that's the stuff I always look forward to hearing about from them. Regardless if the series goes in weird directions. Now, I don't care. Anyway.
That's what happened with my favorite game. Star Ocean was from them as well, and it kind of went weird. Like by the third or fourth or fifth game, it was like, what's happening?
Yeah, sometimes they're a little questionable with the reputation for some of their series nowadays, but I still like them, so don't judge me, people. Yep. Anyway, they started off their conference by showing off Shadow of the Tomb Raider stuff, and it looked very cool, looked very Tomb Raider. Nothing too crazy to comment on. It didn't look like anything I haven't seen before from the newer Tomb Raider games. I own the first one, but I haven't really played it much yet. But it looked like a lot of similar stuff to it. It looked good, but nothing totally crazy.
Visually pleasing.
Yeah, very visually pleasing. So next up, I don't play any of these games, but even like the announcement for this like made my jaw drop just because it was so unexpected. Okay, so they have Final Fantasy 14, which is one of those MMOs, online games where everybody plays together and does missions and stuff like that. They announced a crossover with Monster Hunter, and
so random.
Yeah, it was completely unexpected.
Are their universes anything alike?
I don't think so. I mean, there's monsters in both.
Yeah, you're battling. Yeah, it's true. Final Fantasy, you're always fighting these monsters out in the wilderness.
Yeah, so there's that.
Maybe they're not too far off.
Yeah, they're coming out with an update that has Monster Hunter stuff in the game, so that's cool. Yeah, I don't know what the overlap is for people who play Final Fantasy 14 and Monster Hunter, but if there's a big enough one, I'm sure they're freaking out over that, so there's that. Then later on in the conference, they advertised a game called Babylon's Fall, which is the game that kind of really intrigued me the most, I think, from everything that they showed at their conference, because they didn't really show much. They didn't show any gameplay. It was mainly a teaser, but like the way they did it was like show that it was like a medieval based game, and they were doing like this big dramatic intro where they were showing like a timeline of events in this fantasy world that happened, like in like such and such year there was like this great war, and then later on there's like in this year there's like punishment, and it shows like this angel like figure in the distance like being all menacing over a big group of people, and then later is like rebirth and then awakening. I'm like, oh, this is a game that has like a lot of lore to it, so I'm like, that's kind of cool. And then yeah, this game is being developed by Platinum Games, and that really intrigues me because they're known for making some really cool, fun games to play, like with a lot of cool stylized action. They're the ones that made like the Bayonetta series, Nier, Automata, and such. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what like any new stuff they reveal for that game. And soon after that, they showed off some stuff for Just Cause 4. I don't play those games, but I know a lot of people really like them. They were like really teasing that they got some cool wind effects, like tornadoes and stuff that can really mess things up. So,
which is interesting to add like a weather effect in a game, kind of like that. It's where they're like, "Oh no, a tornado!" I'm like, "What?" I'd have to play the game to understand why there's a tornado.
Yeah.
Maybe some snow might fall off the roof and get you. I don't know.
Oh boy.
That would be a true
I hope
catastrophe. Game changer. Sorry.
Then after that, they showed another teaser for a game that interests me as well, but they didn't show a whole lot. It's a game called The Quiet Man. And no, it's not a game about the John Wayne movie.
Sounds so creepy.
No, it's like, okay, they start out like showing this cutscene and it's actual live action footage, like actual actors, and this guy is like walking in an alley and with like a group of thugs at the end, and they're like, "Oh man, you need to get out of here," but then like he doesn't, and then he keeps walking toward him, and then the thugs say something back to him, but then the guy like points to his ear like he's deaf or he can't speak or something, and then they do like some sort of transition move where the camera's now behind the guy, but now it's like in-game graphics, and he like lays a beat down on everybody.
I thought it was weird that they used that name because when they said The Quiet Man, that's a John Wayne movie.
Yeah.
Like, wait, what?
The Quiet Man universe?
Yeah, you never know.
Canon.
It's like nothing like the movie, but there you go. So then after the guy beats everybody up, they do this another transition where they go back to live action footage, and the guy just like walks off, and then they're like, The Quiet Man. So I don't know what that's gonna be like.
And he's a man.
Yeah, I don't know. If, like they tease like the guy's deaf, so I'm wondering what kind of gameplay mechanics are gonna come into play if you're playing as a deaf character.
You're going to have to learn sign language. The other character has to sign language to you, and you have to learn it. It's exciting.
But yeah, I think it's interesting how they were going back to doing like live action cutscenes for this game, apparently, because they used to do that a lot, like back in the day. So I don't know if they were trying to make some sort of point, like our graphics are so realistic in this game, you won't be able to tell very well when we transition from live action footage to gameplay. But I mean, you could.
One day.
That'd be creepy as heck. But I mean, they might as well just not do gameplay cutscenes at all anymore if we reach that point, because I'm sure it'd save a lot of money maybe by doing that.
Yeah, it would. Just do a real scene.
Oh man,
that's funny.
Ubisoft's conference was after Square Enix, and they did another little song and dance number thing, but it was
so cool.
Yeah, it was way better than the Andrew WK thing at Bethesda's. They were advertising for their Just Dance 2019, and they had, the little panda, I think it's their mascot, their panda mascot, coming out, and he's dancing, and then a bunch of other dancers come in. And the guys look like there's something from the 90s dressed up in really bright clothes. And then the ladies look like there's something from Star Wars or from the Capital City and the Hunger Games series. So they were very out there with their outfits. One lady was pink.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand that. But they were advertising songs, like they were playing songs in like a big band instrumental thing, like different.
Yeah, that was a really cool mashup of band style pop songs all mashed together. I really like that.
It was a good style, and I'm assuming they're advertising game like songs in the game that you'll be able to dance. And after that, they showed a lot of cutscene footage for Beyond Good and Evil 2. Now, I mean, it looks cool. I don't really know much about Beyond Good and Evil. I just know that it's a game that came out like back in 2003, I think, and it did really well, but it sold poorly. So fans of the series have been really wanting like a sequel to come out.
That's a great feeling.
Yeah, so
when the underdog game goes big.
Yeah, so they're getting their new game. So I know a lot of people are stoked about that, and it looked really cool. I mean,
they had an interesting video with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, and I don't know how to feel about it.
I haven't seen it.
So Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the owner of a thing called Hit Record, and it's hitrecord.com. So I don't really grasp the grandness of what they all do, but it's something with collaborating and music. I think they make like viral videos of musicians around the world. I feel like I saw a video of theirs a long time ago that was like that. It was really cool. So anyway, he comes on stage and he's like, "Hey, your Hit Record is teaming up with Beyond Good and Evil 2, and we're doing a thing where we want to have your art and your music and your voice in the game. You can log on to this website and you can submit whatever this art or music that you've made, and it can be featured in the game," which is really cool. At the same time, I'm like, did they not hire enough graphic artists and like music producers?
Yeah,
Are they cutting corners, or they just truly want to do something different and have the fans in the game, which is a cool idea.
First, it made it sound like they were going to pay artists with exposure because they didn't mention payment in the actual presentation. But then I looked on Hit Record's website, and it does state that they will pay any artist whose work ends up in the final product of the game.
Yeah, I sure hope they do.
Yeah, but they didn't say like how much or anything, so that sounds kind of sketchy.
They'll give you free membership.
That would be awful. They said they have like a $50,000 budget to pay anybody who helps contribute, but it's like, how many artists are they gonna pick from, and like how thin is like are they gonna divide this money up, you know? It's
Like, will they put my stick man on the side of a big building? How good does your art have to be?
I mean, imagine pretty decent.
But that's exciting for me. Someone like me, like I love making digital art and I love making music. So I'm like, dude, send me some material or some guidelines and I will make some cool stuff for your world.
Yeah.
That would be really fun.
But as far as like professional artists tripping in for this, I can't see anybody who's especially got a family like being willing to contribute stuff to this project when there's no guarantee of ever getting paid or your stuff getting picked. It's just like throwing your stuff out there for a contest almost essentially. And I would imagine you have to put in a lot of work for whatever you're trying to make because, you know, it's a video game they're choosing from.
As a photographer, I'm so over people saying, work for exposure. We'll give you great exposure in this magazine or in this case, in this game. You know, like you'll be famous because of this game is such a big deal. So give us your work and we don't have to pay you because, you know, you'll be famous.
Yeah, it's very
so
strange.
over that
if you get famous, we'll pay you at the end, but right now we can't pay you.
Oh, classic,
Yeah, so I don't know why, I just don't understand why they're going the crowdsourcing route instead of just not like hiring artists and musicians to do this. But
to actually do it.
Whatever, it's a thing. And then after that presentation, they did like this weird thing for Rainbow Six Siege. I was kind of confused. I'm like, wait, isn't this a thing already that's been out? But they were really promoting like their esports presence, and they're even making a documentary about a few players who play Siege professionally, and that's what they were advertising.
Yeah, it's like they're introducing the documentary after 9 months and following these people around. I was like, wait, what? Thought you were, because every year Rainbow Six will introduce what's called a new year. They've made multiple games, but in like the last year or two, instead of saying here's a brand new game, they add like a DLC on top of everything. So it's like year 1, year 2, year 3. So I thought they were adding another year or something bigger because I was like, why are they having a conference? Like, why are they having their time to speak? But they got up on there and they were like, hey guys, you know, this is a community. We'd love to see what we've done. Everything is great. You know, here's the new characters. You know, they're all behind them, like displayed on the screens. And then they say, you know, we have the privilege of having a documentary. And I was like, wait, what? A documentary? Yeah, I was like, what are we talking about? And so
it was really weird.
A docu-game.
Okay. And after that, they did another dumb skit where this guy came out riding a motorcycle and he was dressed up like Evel Knievel. And he rode down the aisle in between the audience and rode up onto the stage. Or was it right out? Maybe right before the stage. And he got up on the stage and was standing and was like, yeah. And then he acted like he was tripping over like his own feet and crashed into like a TV and a podium that was on stage for some reason.
Okay.
And it all shattered and stuff, so that was weird. But they were doing that to promote the game called Trials Rising, and that game is basically you drive on motorcycles and you're trying to like go through this obstacle course, and there's ragdoll physics, so when players wipe out, they flail around in the air. Yes. So that's kind of what the point he was trying to get at, but it was really weird. Oh yeah, and just one cool thing they did though to advertise for that game, they actually brought a YouTuber up on stage to help promote it because apparently he has a YouTube channel that's all about like helping players get better at the Trials games, and he only has like 8,000 subscribers. So that's kind of cool. They picked out like this kind of lower time YouTuber to bring to E3 to help promote a game. So that's kind of cool for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting seeing this rise of YouTube celebrities.
Yeah.
Past few years, you know, becoming like a big selling point for events and things like this.
Yeah. Then down the line, they showed a game called Skull and Bones, which is like a piracy versus naval kind of game.
Wait, is there Superman? Is he in there?
I wish, but he's not. Maybe he's a secret, but as far as I'm aware, no. First, I thought it was like another Sea of Thieves sort of game because that's another pirate game that's been big lately. But this one looks kind of cooler because you can take up different positions on like in the crew of the ship. Like you can
Cool.
go up on the crow's nest, or you can be the captain, or you can be like a gunner or something like that. So that's something different it's got going for it.
Yeah,
And then they showed like some
sounds fun.
multiplayer support where you can get like other people to join in on like your naval battles and stuff. So
Sweet.
I don't know. It looked kind of interesting, even though to me it still looks like Sea of Thieves a lot. So I don't know what the difference is.
So like you can control one guy can control the cannons, one can be like steering the ship, and another guy can be like down below drinking rum.
Yeah, that would be great. But no, it looked like more of the multiplayer stuff was like each player gets their own ship and crew. So
Oh, okay.
that's kind of neat. And then the next game really grabbed my attention because Elijah Wood walked out on stage.
Oh no. Oh,
And if
prepare
anybody
yourself.
involved in Lord of the Rings is gonna be involved in the game, I guess that means my interest is gonna double from it. But anyway,
Yeah.
he walked out because he's like a co-owner of a film company called Spectre Vision, and they're making a game and partnering with
Wow.
Ubisoft to release it. They advertised it as like a first-person virtual reality psychological horror game.
Gosh.
I know. And the idea of the game is exploring people's consciousnesses and their darkest thoughts and most intimate secrets. I don't know exactly what all that would entail, but it sounds spooky, I guess. I mean, the trailer they showed for it looks kind of interesting because they did another thing where it looks like the cutscenes are they're live action again. So they filmed actual actors and they showed, I don't know, it was hard to make out exactly what was happening, but it kind of gave the impression that you're a kid, I guess, and your dad is like talking to you, and the kid's like going, "Dad, what's going on? Where's mom?" And he's like, "Don't worry about it, son," and getting like right up in your face. "I promise you this, you'll be with her soon." And it gets like all creepy and it's all like the room's
what's
all
the worst that
dark
could
and
happen?
everything. And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
What's the name of that game?
Oh yeah, the game's called Transference, and that's definitely a game I'm gonna keep my eye on because it sounds
I'm
interesting.
thinking you are, as a player, are transferring into other people's consciousnesses
Yeah.
and living through horrible memories.
Yeah, and
So I just predicted the whole game. Mic drop.
yeah. I mean, I would be surprised if it was something different than that, honestly. Yeah, but they show like in the gameplay, when you're in your environment, it looks like stuff can be glitching out or something. Like stuff would get all pixely or distorted for a second and then go back to normal.
Virtual reality.
There
Yeah.
was like some weird shadow monster that looked like was made up of pixels and was like teleporting and getting closer and had glowing red eyes. I couldn't tell if that was creepy or just kind of weird, honestly. But if it's a
Interesting.
virtual reality game, I mean, that has a lot of good potential to freak the heck out of people, especially if people are talking to you like right up in your face and they look real. So that's kind of interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, they advertised Starlink Battle for Atlas.
Cool.
I don't know exactly what to think of it. It just looked like, kind of game where you build up a crew and you go out in space and you're shooting stuff. So
Yeah. I watched quite a bit of gameplay and it looks really fun.
Yeah.
It's a different take on spaceship battling. So basically, I didn't see any outer space battles, which I'm sure there would be, but there's a lot of planetary surface action, just like in Star Fox. And so, like, literally, you build your own ship physically with these add-ons and things that connect on top of your controller.
yeah, I was very confused about that at first, but apparently that's an optional thing where you can get like a Toys to Life element. It's like a controller you can swap
I
pieces.
hope it's optional because I was thinking, oh, great, they're going to charge like $50 per ship.
Yeah,
And you
I had
can't
to
have
look it
unless
up.
you pay for
Apparently
it.
it's optional, so that's good.
Okay, good. Well, it's a cool idea, although it's a bit gimmicky to me.
Yeah.
Although I would like to have those models up on my, in my house.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool spaceships. You can like attach a wing on. You can put the wings backwards, and they'll reflect that in the game. You
Right.
can put on rocket launchers and laser guns, and you do all kinds of wacky. You can put wings on top of wings and make a cool ship. So.
Mhm.
Cool idea, very open-ended.
Yeah.
But anyway, the gameplay that I saw, the guy was zooming around on really close to the surface of a planet, fighting this gigantic mech. It's really a lot like Star Fox, which is probably why they brought Star Fox into this game.
I know, that was like a big
Boom.
reveal there. Because people have been
Yeah.
clamoring for a new Star Fox game for a while.
Yeah, I love Star Fox. I go way back to Star Fox on 64. I tried to play the SNES one, and it's rough, but the 64 one is really fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, they brought Star Fox into this universe. Somehow he comes and saves the day, or he's an extra player or something.
Mhm.
But honestly, it's weird to me seeing Star Fox with humans.
Yeah.
Just wrong. Like, he needs to be in an animal universe. I don't know. I don't like humans next to Star Fox.
Yeah. I played the Kingdom Hearts games and those are full of weird crossovers, so I'm kind of used to weird stuff like that. But I
Okay,
can see how
yeah.
other people will be like, what?
Yeah, but this gameplay looks really fun. It looks
Hmm.
fun zooming around. Your ship was basically a hovercraft almost, the way that they were controlling it and
That's
jumping
cool.
around on there. Yeah, fighting robots and stuff like that. So looks
Mm.
fun.
Hmm. And just like to let people know, Star Fox is only going to be available on the Switch version, so keep that in mind if you
Hmm,
really want Star Fox.
interesting. They would do that,
Yeah, it
Nintendo.
makes perfect sense in, in hindsight, really.
No Star Fox for you.
Yeah. And then the final game that they showed to wrap up their whole conference was Assassin's Creed Odyssey, because of course they have to release an
Ugh.
Assassin's Creed game every single year.
Every year.
I know, it's getting really old at this point. I hope they realize that it's getting old, because this is getting ridiculous.
I did not see the videos for this, unfortunately. I'm kicking
It's all
myself. But
good.
what realm or time is this in?
It takes place in the Spartan era in Greece. You play as a
Oh,
Spartan, and you can play as either a man or a lady.
oh,
So there's that. And this game looks different than the others. I've never
Yeah.
played any of the Assassin's Creed games, but it looks like it's turned into an RPG. Like you can level
Hmm.
up and get stat bonuses
weird.
and equip equipment, you know, like a helmet. They showed off that.
Yeah.
Like they beat up an enemy and they took his helmet and put it on their head.
oh, cool.
So that's
Yeah.
different.
The Assassin's Creed trilogy is really, really good, but I don't know. They've been pumping them out so quick recently. I'm like, man, like give us a chance to finish the other
Yeah.
one.
It's definitely not a trilogy anymore. It's like a dozen games at this point, I think.
The Egypt one was last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the end of Ubisoft, and then Sony's was after that. And I don't know how I feel about Sony's whole conference, because they did something weird where they held it in like two separate locations.
They moved everybody.
Yeah, it really, really destroyed the flow of the show. Like, like the opening was awful at first, and I'll get
How
that.
was the
I'll get
opening?
into that in a little bit. Okay, so at first they start out the show in like this big tent, and the tent is designed to look like a church or something. And at first you're like, at home you're like, okay, why is this a thing? And then they start off showing the trailer for The Last of Us 2. And the opening scene in that is they're inside like a church at a social gathering, and the whole like room and like lighting setup they got going on there is exactly like inside the tent. So they're trying to do this weird immersion thing for the people there. So I mean,
Unnecessary.
I guess
Okay.
it's cool for the people there, but at home, I mean, you don't care. But yeah, they show like a big gameplay thing. Actually, Sony stated at the beginning of their conference they were only gonna like show in depth like 4 games and just go over a few others kind of more briefly, and like not to expect a whole lot from the conference. So they were upfront about like how they were gonna go about things. So Last of Us 2 was one of those games they're gonna show a lot of, and they showed really cool combat actually. Cause I don't play Last of Us games, so this was kind of a little bit new to me. But they were showing, you know, like some really cinematic, almost looking fight stuff, like enemies
they're going all out.
Yeah, they were going all out. I mean, the thing that stuck out to me the most was like how Ellie was like running towards a guy, and there was like a bottle, empty bottle, sitting like on a ledge nearby. So she like one fluid motion, you're able to like pick up the bottle and like launch it at this guy, and it shatters.
Nice.
So that was kind of cool that you could do that like so fluidly. I'm like, oh, that's neat. But I wonder how much of this gameplay was scripted, because some things just seem to happen too perfectly, or people seem to pop out like at the perfect time and whatnot. So whether the final game will look as cool as the stuff they showed, I don't know. So after all of that is when they started moving people out of this tent and into the main like conference staging area. So during this time they transitioned to like a group of people at a desk just like talking over some stuff. And this goes on for like 15 minutes. Like they're trying to buy time for people to get back into the theater. And it was the most boring thing ever, because they try to like put a little extra gaming news in there. Like they show some stuff for like Destiny 2 and like a couple sizzle reels, a few games that are coming out. They only show like 10-second clips for like 5 different games. And that made me sad, because some of the stuff
Why
looked
do they
really
do that?
interesting. I'm like, no, you could have done like an actual, you know, presentation for this. I want to know what that is. So yeah, that part was very disappointing. But once they got back into the theater, finally, the show went on really well from there. So slow start, but you know, it was great otherwise. Once they got
Yeah.
back in, they showed a game called Ghost of Tsushima. And that looks really interesting to me. It's another one of those games that's like set in Japan. And it's in the 13th century, and you play as a samurai during the first Mongol invasion. And it's like, it almost kind of reminded
Good
me
times,
of,
right? Good times.
yeah, sounds like a great time. No, it's a dark time. It kind of reminded me a little bit, slightly of like the Batman Arkham games, because like the beginning of a combat section, they show like the samurai holding onto his sword while it was still in the sheath, and he walked up. So I guess it was a Mongol or somebody, and he pulled out his sword like super quick and it slashes like right through the guy. But like
Nice.
it doesn't like sever him in half or anything. That would have been super gross and I wouldn't be
Yeah.
interested in the game anymore by that point. Yeah, and it was like in slow motion too, so it was like had these cool cinematic effects and I hope they're in the actual final game. But no, he's like fluidly going to over like all these different guys and hacking them down, and at one point he like I think he sticks his sword like through a wall and gets through a guy on the other end, and it looked like there was some stealth
Sweet.
elements too. Like he was up in the rafters. I think maybe that was before that whole section and was trying to get the jump on everyone. So it kind of gave me a little bit of
Literally.
Batman. Yeah, it gave me a little Batman vibe. So that's got me
Cool.
interested. It looks like it's an open world thing. Like you can ride your horse to like different locations and stuff. And
Oh, fun.
yeah, and the game looks super pretty. Like the colors and the setting is just awesome. Like towards the end of their
It's Asia.
yeah. Like towards the end of the little showcase, they had like a fight scene between your character and this lady. Like the way they did the framing and like the lighting and the composition was very artistic. They show like the sun like in low lighting
Nice.
coming through the
They
clouds.
got some cinematographers and photographers working on
They
those
must
things.
have because it was just gorgeous, and then like all the characters were backlit.
Sweet.
Everybody was
check that out.
like shaded all dramatically and stuff. It was great. Yeah, definitely check out that gameplay footage because it's gorgeous. So that's got me interested.
Cool.
Then after that, they did a little showing of I think a new IP called Control, which looked kind of interesting.
Yeah, it looks like a mind-bending, trippy
Yeah.
puzzle game.
Yeah, kind of, or like a action adventure third-person shooter kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
you're playing as
It's got a lot of elements, doesn't it?
yeah. I couldn't tell exactly what the game was going to be like, but I
Mm-hmm.
just know that you're playing as a girl who has, I guess, telekinesis powers and can manipulate things. But it looks like she also has a gun that looked like it was almost
Change
breathing.
shape.
Like it was like getting all pixelated and can like transform into different shapes and stuff. So
Yeah.
that looked kind of cool.
A lot of the shots that I saw was like the environment, like twisting and breaking into big blocks and just
Mm-hmm.
falling to pieces. But at the same time, she's controlling things. So I'm thinking, what if like her subconscious is like destroying the environment and she's actually controlling like everything.
Yeah, I don't know.
But she doesn't know it. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it looked neat. Then after that, they showed a trailer for the Resident Evil 2 remake. And I didn't know what this was at first because they started off the trailer like you're in the viewpoint of a mouse and you're like running around on the shelf and you're like weaving in and out of like food products and you hear like people arguing like in the distance and like people are banging into the shelf and stuff. I'm like, oh, is this a game where you play as a mouse? That's cool. But then like
I play that.
yeah, but then like the shelf falls on the mouse and it dies. So I'm like, oh,
Oh,
that's not
game over.
fun. And then they transitioned to a police officer getting his throat ripped out by a zombie, and I was like, oh god, because it was very
nice.
gross. But a lot of people are super excited for this because a lot of people like Resident Evil, and 2 is a game I guess they've been wanting a remake of.
Yeah, they love that throat ripping action too.
Yeah, I mean, it looked kind of cool, but I wouldn't play it. There's that for all the Resident Evil fans. I'm sure they're super excited.
Yeah, it's funny. We're all three of us are not really into zombie
Yeah,
horror games.
I mean, I watched The Walking Dead, so I'm not like totally averse
True,
to some
yeah.
zombie stuff, but I don't want to
Yeah.
play The Walking Dead games because they would scare me.
yeah, we died.
I don't want to play any zombie games. That's too much immersion for me, and I don't like them.
Flip flopping from the scary throat ripping mouse squashing game.
Yeah.
Next one they announced Trover Saves the Universe. That looks like
Yeah.
crazy. I described it as a candy covered drug trip.
That's an accurate way of describing it, too. It's made by the guy who works for Rick and Morty, Justin Roiland, so his voices are all up in the
Goodness.
game, and I'm sure it's
So funny.
yeah, it definitely has some Rick and Morty vibes to it.
The video only showed like 5 seconds of gameplay.
Yeah, not any
Come on.
gameplay was really shown. Just some like cool sci-fi looking environments in their little cartoony style, but that's about it. It just showed bathtub guy playing the game in his bathtub because he's bathtub guy, and you should not do this because this is dangerous. And then he dies when the TV falls
dies.
into his bathtub.
I laughed about that. I laughed that they put the little subtitle there, do not play with electronics
Yeah.
in bathtub. And then I laughed again because he died from it. And now I need to know the story behind
Yeah.
Bathtub Guy.
That was a weird one.
Mm.
And after that, they showed Kingdom Hearts 3 footage, which, you know, of course I gravitated to because I've played like most of the game in the series and I'm stuck with. I have this weird love-hate relationship with the series because it's a lot of fun, but the story is convoluted at this point and is
Ugh.
really weird.
Big mess.
But anyways, yeah, they showed some new worlds that are going to be available to play as in that game. And I guess for those who don't know, Kingdom Hearts is a big crossover between Final Fantasy characters and Disney, and the big point of that game is like going through different Disney worlds and eliminating like the evil threats there called the Heartless and stuff. So anyways, they showed off some new Disney worlds you can go to. They showed Frozen, because of course they gotta have Frozen in their new game with how popular it is.
Gotta let it go, yeah.
And then the new one they showed was they're going back to Pirates of the Caribbean, and it actually looks good because it was a world you could go to in Kingdom Hearts 2. But it was kind of weird in that the characters did not blend so well with the realistic Pirates of the Caribbean people because they made them look realistic.
Weird.
So, like, even just like the way they were shaded and colored was weird because like all the Pirates characters were, you know, all dark and matched the environment, whereas the characters you play as, the main character Sora and then Donald and Goofy are tagging along with you, they're more brightly colored and just kind of stand out and look odd. But in this game, they kind of all blend together a lot better. So there's that. And they also seem to have gotten a better Jack Sparrow impersonator because in the last game, he was kind of...
They couldn't pay him.
Not that great. Yeah.
They couldn't afford the role.
No.
Is Wreck-It Ralph in that game yet?
They showed something from Wreck-It Ralph, but I don't know if there's like a world you can go to or if it's like he's a summon because they have different summoning things of Disney characters, kind of like in Final Fantasy where you could summon like different creatures to help you out. They kind of have Disney summons. And it looked like they showed Ratatouille maybe being a summon because I don't think that would be a world either. So that was kind of weird, but that's there.
That was random.
And what was weird was listening to the trailer and the gameplay, the music cut out. There was no music. I was like, what?
No,
Really?
It's like the sound effects cut out. Like,
like
halfway
everything
through the
but
trailer.
their voice.
Yeah, like halfway through the trailer, they decided to play like this song because they always have like at the intro of every main Kingdom Hearts game, like a song sung by this popular Japanese singer. So I guess they were advertising the song that's going to be in that game. And for some reason, they decided to cut out like all the sound effects that were going on in the gameplay clips, maybe to focus in on the song more, but it made things sound kind of awkward. Like when people are like running or like fighting and you just hear, ha, 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 or people running and there's no sound effects, no weapon sounds, no footsteps. It's just kind of
that's weird.
Weird artistic choice there. I don't know why they did that. But anyways, a big thing that was kind of shown at E3 is that Kingdom Hearts 3 finally has a release date. Actually, they announced this like the day before E3 officially. I don't know why they decided to do that instead of wait till E3, but whatever, they did it. January 29th, 2019 is when it's coming out. 13 years after Kingdom Hearts 2. People have been waiting forever for this game. You don't understand.
It's like Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, it's worse. It's worse.
Yeah. The record.
So it seems like it's finally going to be released after all these years. So hooray. Then we can finally move on and grow up.
Yeah.
All right. After that one, they showed more stuff for Death Stranding. And Daniel, I don't know if you know much about Death Stranding. I made Nate a long time ago watch some gameplay trailers.
Doesn't sound fun. Being stranded and dying.
Yeah, it's a very weird game that nobody really knows exactly what it's about. And they first showed stuff for this game back in 2016 at E3. So this is the third time they show stuff at E3, and still we don't really know much about it.
Tell me, what do you do?
I don't know. It's a big deal because it's made by Hideo Kojima, who's the guy who made all the Metal Gear Solid stuff. So he's making a brand new game. It pretty much stars Norman Reedus, the guy from The Walking Dead. It like has like his physical body in the game. It's really weird. They have actual actors like portraying themselves as characters in the game. They got Norman Reedus as a protagonist. They have Mads Mikkelsen playing the bad guy, so he's in there too. Guillermo, I'm trying to pronounce his name, but I don't know if I'm saying it right. Guillermo del Toro. Yeah, he's in the game as something. I don't know what. And then in this new trailer. Then they introduced two new actresses in this new trailer, Lindsay Wagner and Léa Seydoux. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's French, so forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. But yeah, I mean, I could try to explain like some of the stuff I've seen in previous trailers to you right now, but this would take forever, and I just recommend you go watch it later. I was really hoping they would actually show some gameplay for this game, because that's something they have failed to do since now. It was like, show like, is this game going to be any good? How do you play this game? But then they still didn't really show much in the gameplay side of things. It looked like Norman Reedus walking simulator. You're like, they showed Norman Reedus
exciting
walking from place to place in these really cool looking landscapes. I think they made the point that he's like a courier in the game and he has to deliver stuff to people, so he's got like this big backpack full of like containers and stuff. So I guess in this game you're traversing from place to place at some points, and that's all they showed. They showed them like climb up the side of a mountain, across fields and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, you can walk around the game, cool, but what else? I don't know.
There's some kind of ghostly figure that walks with hands.
Yeah, and like
in the
in a
world?
previous trailer, they made a point like you have to remain silent because I guess that's how they find you is through sound primarily.
Yeah.
So that's why people go quiet whenever they know that one of these things is around.
This
Like,
guy's got a baby in an artificial womb on his chest.
yeah,
In a
there's
spacesuit.
there's this big thing about this baby that he's carrying around, and I don't know what it
What
is.
is
Nobody knows
happening?
what it is. And then in another trailer, they showed a thing where I don't know if like Norman Reedus is hallucinating, but then they like do like this camera shot where the camera's going down his throat and into his stomach. There's the baby just sitting there, and he does like a thumbs up at the camera, and then it zooms back out of him. I'm like, what the heck is this? I don't know what this game is.
So many questions.
I know this game is either going to be amazing or it's going to be really weird and bad.
Really bad flop.
I like some kind of weird stuff. I like weird stories, stuff
Right.
that's different. So this kind of has my attention, but I don't know if it's going to be good or not. So I don't know. And they still have no release date for this
boy.
game. So who knows how long we're going to be riding this weird roller coaster of weird trailers coming out
The
for this
baby's
game and
what
no
tripped
real
me
news.
Do that. Just get that baby. Just give me a thumbs up through his esophagus.
See? It's so weird.
All right, moving
And
on.
yeah, moving on from this weird trip of a game.
Disturbed.
I've never played this series, but I figure it's worth mentioning because a lot of people love this game. Neo 2 is coming out at some point. People like that's a game that came out maybe a couple of years ago. First Neo, it was like a big hit. I don't know anything about it, but that's a thing for people who like Neo. So, woo.
There's a sequel. You're welcome.
Anyways, moving on to like the last game that they showed at the conference, and one that I am super interested in is the new Spider-Man game coming out, and it looks
Spider-Man.
amazing. So I'm really interested because one, the combat in this game looks amazing. It gives me more Batman Arkham vibes, and that's not a bad thing because I don't think they're making any more Arkham games, and this will be a nice little substitute.
Feature fix.
And yet you're playing as Spider-Man, so the gameplay is going to be different. It's going to be very zippy. You can sling your web at people, do different acrobatics and stuff like that. So the gameplay that they showed, they did like a really big extended thing where I guess everybody's breaking out of prison, like the Sinister Six or something.
That's fun.
If I
Good
recall.
times.
So they showed a lot of cool stuff, and the gameplay looks absolutely great. Just like they did,
Yeah, it
they showed
does.
some at E3 last year, and they just made it. They kind of like they amped up everything to 11. They showed a scene like when you're outside of the prison, and like everybody's trying to like throw stuff at you, like Electro's trying to throw like I don't know, support beams and different things at you, and you're like zipping through the different environments. Like Spider-Man, it looks like you're gonna dead up feel like Spider-Man in this game. And then I had to look up like all the villains that so far that they have announced going to be in the game. And I'm not like a comic book nerd, so I don't know like the villains that aren't in the movies. So sorry about that, but they say they've got Mr. Negative, Kingpin, Shocker, Electro, Rhino, Scorpion, Vulture, and Taskmaster as villains that are going to be in the game. So
Wow.
yeah, I guess that.
That's gonna be a long
I'm assuming
game.
that's a
That's
cool
fun.
lineup, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
So sorry. And then they confirmed that Black Cat's going to be in it, and Norman Osborn. I don't know if he's going to be Green Goblin or not, but there's that.
Mhm.
It's coming out September 7th. So
It's gonna be a long game. That's a lot of villains in there.
I don't know. Batman Arkham stuff usually has like a lot of villains in it. And those games aren't too long. They're like maybe 15 hours to complete or something, and that's
Yeah,
not
only-
like super long by video game standards nowadays. So. Oh, I'm excited.
Only
Okay.
15 hours.
I know, only 15 hours. Not that bad. Honestly, when you
Compared
play
to one day.
JRPGs and you've sunk in 50 hours to a game before,
Yeah,
that's
nothing.
nothing.
Like, that's so quick. I can beat that in a week.
And that's
Yeah,
nothing.
that's what I'm used to.
And even those are nothing compared to like Skyrim kind of games where you could play for like
Oh.
300 hours. That's
Well,
why I never got
oh,
into
heck
that.
no.
Yeah, that's why I kind of stayed away from those games because I knew I wouldn't cease to live pretty much. Anyway, that wraps up Sony's. And Nintendo is the last publisher to show any sort of E3 stuff. Now, they didn't really have a conference. They do what's called Nintendo Directs, and it's all pre-recorded, and they release several throughout the year. So it's not like they're holding back everything for this one moment at E3 like everyone else typically does. So theirs wasn't quite as big as the others, but they'll probably release like more news about different things like later on in the year. So there's that. I just want to preface with that. So they started out in an interesting way. They showed off this new game called Daemon Ex Machina, and it's like a
That's
big,
cool.
yeah, it's a big mech fighting game, and
You're
yeah,
very cell shaded and anime.
yeah, it
Like,
really threw me off because like you don't expect Nintendo to start out with like a trailer that starts out with metal music and these robots
mhm.
fighting.
They just had to get it out of the way first, so
Yeah,
they get to their big money making
pretty
stuff.
much.
It does look fun though. Like, if have you guys ever played Armored Core?
No, I
No.
haven't. But I heard
Mm-mm.
of it. I've heard of it. I've never played.
Yeah, it's a cool mech building military, first person or third person game where you've got a mech that you can upgrade and modify or purchase other parts and other mechs. And you're sent on missions or some kind of backstory, political or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks cool. I mean, it's interesting though. I'm getting used to the cell shading thing because like fire and smoke is not like natural and photorealistic.
Yeah.
It's like they would draw in an anime or a manga.
Yeah. I really
So once
like
you get
that kind
used
of
to that, it's
style.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is cool. And when it gets up close, there's still a lot of detail. Things are gritty and detailed and realistic looking to that effect.
Yeah.
Um, I like it.
Yeah, I really like when anime things in video games nowadays look like it should be from an anime and not like
Hmm.
more realistically shaded. Because I'll admit that's like a problem I have with the new Jump Force game coming out, and that like the shading is more realistic style because it kind of makes
Yeah.
certain characters look kind of plasticky, and I don't like that. And I'm kind of used to like the later Dragon Ball Z fighting games where everybody's like cel shaded and looks kind of like they came out of the cartoon more or less. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm kind of disappointed they didn't go on that route for that game, but it is what it is. Anyway, moving on from that, they showed more footage for the new Pokemon thing on the Switch called Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu, and Eevee.
Long
So,
name.
yeah, I mean, it's like two
Really long
separate
game.
games, I think. Like, you can get one for
Oh,
Pikachu or Eevee.
okay.
That's cute, because I like Eevee a lot. But anyways, I don't know what this game exactly is. It's not like a main like entry in the Pokemon games. I don't know if it's plays like Pokemon Go exactly. It seems like it's got some elements to it where instead of catching Pokemon by damaging them and then like throwing a Pokeball at them when they're weak, you kind of like tame them with berries and then throw a Pokeball at
Oh, how
them.
progressive. How
I
woke.
know, right? But I
The new
think,
millennia.
yeah, I think that's how Pokemon Go works with their catching mechanics. So I don't know if that's the way they're going with it.
Funny.
But I know you can like hook up Pokemon Go to this thing and transfer over Pokemon you've catched
Hmm.
from there to this new game. So
Cool.
and it comes like you can buy like this accessory called a Pokeball Plus, where it's like an actual physical Pokeball that you hold in the real world, and you can use that to play the game without instead of
Oh
like using
no.
like a controller, and you can use that to act like you're catching Pokemon by like throwing it at the
Oh.
screen, but not like don't really throw it because then you'll break the
So
screen.
now, not only are people going to be wandering around aimlessly, not aware of their surroundings, but now they're going to be throwing things in public.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I don't really know what to think about this because I swear before this Nintendo Direct, they did some sort of a gameplay trailer thing where they advertised that you can store some Pokemon from the game into this Pokeball and take it places, and maybe it's like works as a pedometer and it has some benefit to whatever Pokemon's inside. Like maybe it makes it stronger or something. I thought I heard that because I know there's like people I know like who were saying, I'm gonna be 20 years old and carrying around a Pokeball with me. This is gonna be normal and stuff like that. But they didn't say anything about that in this Nintendo Direct, so I don't know what's going on with that. I still think that maybe we're gonna see a lot of adults carrying around Pokeballs with them out in
Wow.
public. So I mean, we'll see if that's a real thing. And apparently, when you buy this Pokeball, you can get a Mew in the game. So that means Mew's way easier to get than it was back in our day.
Mm.
So I'm a little jealous there.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Jesus.
moving on from Pokemon, then they showed Super Mario Party coming to the Switch, and that's kind of a big deal because in the latest Mario Party games, they did some stupid thing where instead of like everybody moving around the board independently and being competitive and stuff, they put everybody in like a car and everybody moves at the same pace or something. So a lot of people have been really mad about that.
Hmm.
But then they brought it back to where, you can do your own thing. And so people are like really excited.
Yeah, that looks super fun. I
So
want to play
that's
that.
cool. Well, of course, they had to advertise that, hey, we're bringing Fortnite to the Switch. So there's that. And then they advertised some indie games coming to the Switch. So they did like a quick little thing like, oh, we're bringing Overcooked 2. And that's kind of a big deal because a lot of people love Overcooked, including my niece and nephew. So they'll be thrilled that
Is
there's
this
a
a cooking
sequel.
game?
Yep, it's a cooking game. And it's one
Oh,
of those
no.
it's one of those games that will ruin friendships too. Because
Ooh.
you all have to work together and cooperate in order to get through the levels and stuff. And
Would you say Super Smash Brothers, Super Smash Brothers is a friendship ruining game?
It could be, but it's not as bad as some. Like Mario Party is the one that really is known to ruin friendships.
I watched the video on that. I don't know. It looks like a board game ultimately, but then there's like
Yeah.
sub things within it. It's
Oh,
different.
you can do like mini games. Like at the end of every
Yeah.
person's turn, they have like a mini game and stuff, and whoever wins that gets coins, and getting coins allows you to buy stars, and whoever has the most stars at the end of the game wins. So that's usually how those games work. I haven't played in forever, so I don't know if they've changed a lot, but I don't know. But yeah, anyway, for the indie stuff, they were showing Overcooked 2, Killer Queen Black, which is apparently a big deal because it's like an arcade game that came out in 2013 that was like super popular. So now they bringing like a redesigned version of that to the Switch. So that's cool. And then they have Hollow Knight coming out for the Switch. So there's that. And then they showed another sizzle reel of games coming to the Switch, like including a lot of ports. And some of these ports like really surprised me that they're coming to Nintendo consoles. Like Minecraft's coming, Dragon Ball Fighter Z is coming to Switch.
Sweet.
Crash Bandicoot, the Insane Trilogy. So that's different. Dark Souls Remastered. And then they showed The World Ends With You coming to Switch, and that one stood out a lot to me because that's like another Square Enix game that came out like over 10 years ago for the DS. So I'm like, why are they bringing that to the Switch? That's random and weird, but
It is.
it's cool, I guess. I play the heck out of that game. So that's kind of neat. And then they ended off their whole Nintendo Direct with one game that took up like almost half of the rest of the show. They advertised a new Super Smash Brothers game, Super Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Nice.
And a lot of people...
How many players are there? How many characters are there to play?
Okay, I'm gonna drop
Like
a
50?
big news bomb here on you. Every
Ooh.
character that has ever been in the Smash Brothers game will be in this game. You can
Sweet.
play as everyone, including like the DLC characters that were for Smash 4. And 8-player battles are back. I guess they must have gone away for the Wii U version, I suppose. I wasn't aware
so
of this.
much fun.
I haven't
8 players.
I know. I haven't played Smash since Brawl for the Wii, so I'm a little...
Well, you guys have any favorite characters in that game?
I can't remember if I ever like mained anyone. I mean, I played as Link. I tried playing as Snake because he's Snake, and it's weird to see Snake from Metal Gear.
It is weird.
A Nintendo game.
I played a lot of like Zelda, Snake, Mario, Donkey Kong. I kind of played them all.
I think I
There's
played
a few
as
that I
Marth
was
from
just like,
Fire Emblem.
I think when I was younger, I think I got to the point of who's the best, who can I play with, and who has like the most simplest like pick butt combos, you know?
Yeah.
I really liked Link, but I really liked Star Fox and also Samus. So I play with them mostly.
Yeah, those are cool. But
That's really
they
cool.
a lot of hardcore Smash players were debating like, is this just a port of like the Wii U game coming to the Switch, and they just like having a bunch of characters and stuff in it? But they like altered a lot of things for this game to where I think it's like for real like a different game. A lot of characters' movesets have been tweaked. Overall gameplay mechanics have been altered. Like if you spam the dodge move too many times, you'll be left vulnerable for more frames after each successive dodge. So that's different.
Cool.
They're making things a little trickier for you. And they added some new item stuff, and one of them looks especially like mean. They added like a fake smash ball. You know, like how in the games where you break a smash ball and you can get your final smash and do like a devastating attack as a character. Well, they added a fake one. It's slightly different, very slightly different than the real one. And if you break it, I think it like knocks you out of the ring or gives you like massive damage. So that's nasty. Yeah, they had like a bunch of different news for it, and I'm gonna not go over like everything because it's just so much. But they show that they're gonna have a few new characters coming to this one. They show that you can play as Daisy, and she's essentially like a clone of Peach. They're calling their clones Echo characters now instead, so that's a new thing. And also to Smash, they're bringing the Inklings from the Splatoon series, and then they're bringing Ridley from the Metroid series, which is like a kind of a big announcement because people have been asking for years for Ridley to show up. And for people who don't know, he's like the main antagonist for Samus in the Metroid series. So we're finally getting another like Metroid player in those because Samus has been the only one. And he's like a giant, like pterodactyl thing, and he's nasty.
Whoa.
So people were wondering, like, can he even be in the game because he's so huge? And they kind of downscaled him, but he still looks terrifying. But anyway, that's pretty much all the news from Nintendo. A lot of people are upset that they didn't show like stuff from Metroid Prime 4 or the latest like main Pokemon game that's supposed to come out for the Switch next year, or in a new Animal Crossing. But I think they were just mainly focusing on games that are coming out this year.
And how these games make me want to get back to video games.
I swear, one of these days you should just get a Switch, because they're having so many cool things for it.
Yeah. Too.
A lot of good options for your kids to play eventually too. So I totally want to get
see
one.
My kids play video games. That'd be so. Well, this is definitely a longer episode, but I think it was deserving of it because there was just so much awesome stuff that came out in E3. And if you listened all the way to the ending thus far, you are a true video game nerd. And we appreciate your loyalty. Awesome. Well, thank you, Angela, for doing a lot of the lifting for this episode and a lot of the research.
No problemo. I got you guys.
Did a great job.
Thank you.
Getting to jump into your specialty here.
I know. There's one thing I can talk about in depth. It's video game.
Infinitely, yeah. Yep. Well, we are the Visionary Variety Show, so a lot of variety. Well, thanks again, guys, for listening to this episode. We hope you join us next week for our next amazing episode. Remember to subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already. You can find us as well on social media such as Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and even YouTube. And we'd love it if you shared some of our posts from there to your social media accounts just to help get the word out, because we are still a newer podcast and just trudging along, trying to find people that love what we love and let them know about our show. So help us out, won't you? And you can always email us anytime at tvvpodcast@gmail.com to let us know any of your thoughts on the show. What were your favorite games announced in A3? Do you have any ideas for future episodes that we might be able to do? Anything like that. We just want to hear from our listeners. So thanks again, and you guys have a great week.
Combat was really fluid. Like the guy had like his sword in the sheath, and he walked up to a guy, and like one fluid motion, he whipped it out. Well, maybe I should phrase that better.
Sorry, I was trying not to laugh.
Whipped it out.
Sorry. At least I caught myself there.